Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well today. This is going to be a general reading on what's in store for you in the next few days. Alright, so let's pull some cards from this deck that I've illustrated myself. So first we have bandage. Okay, so I get the sense that there is some sort of wound that you're going to be healing over the next few days. And this could be a recent wound, like maybe something you've dealt with in the past few months, or it could be like a lifelong wound, like this kind of core wound that maybe you've carried with you your whole life. But I feel like you're going to have some sort of experience in the next few days that is going to heal a wound for you. And it's going to be like a really gentle kind of bandaging where it's like, it's not like a wound is being reopened for you to see all that blood and gore again. It's more like it's really being caressed gently. So the sense that I'm getting is you're going to have, with a Joker card, like there's an experience that's going to make you more lighthearted about this whole wound, where like maybe for a long time you thought of it as something very serious, or like you could only look at it with this kind of emotional intensity that had this feeling of being really serious or painful, like, you know, when something really sad happens to you and you just like have that really sad energy. But I think you're going to realize that all along this wound wasn't actually something so sad or serious, but it's actually something you could laugh at, where maybe you were mistaken about something with a situation or with how you were being perceived that is actually going to cause you to look at this whole situation differently, and that is what's going to bandage the wound for you. And I think it's going to be some experience that is going to teach you to laugh, maybe laugh at yourself or laugh at the world. Like the sense I'm kind of getting is like a kind of cause and make a joke, or kind of a light-hearted feeling. So I really sense that this wound is going to be something that won't be as important to you in the future. So it's kind of going to be this like permanent bandaging. All right, and dog. So I get the sense that there is some sort of loyalty or training involved here. Like I feel like you're becoming more loyal to yourself in some ways, or like transforming. Like there's a part of yourself that was maybe like trained to be an attack dog, and now it's becoming more like a guide dog for you, where instead of having this reaction of like seeing danger, and this is like relating to this wound, like something that might have triggered this wound before, you might have had this kind of guard dog feeling snap in, where it was like you started barking, or it's like on high alert, right? But now the sense I'm getting is like this dog part of you is becoming more like a seeing eye dog, or like a medical alert dog, where instead of just barking and losing it, it's actually going into this more like caretaking mode in order to guide you along into like what is good for you. So I really feel like there's something inside you that is going to be reoriented in the next few days. Like there's some sort of shift in perspective, and again, it's like relating to some sort of innocence and like a desire to help yourself and a desire to heal, where maybe the reason why this wound stuck around for so long was that on some level you didn't want to heal it yet. And this wasn't necessarily out of a stubbornness or any sort of like masochistic desire to suffer, but it was more like there were lessons that were meant to be learned while dwelling in this wound or carrying it with you. And now that you've learned those lessons, you can change your perspective and, you know, focus on some new problem to solve. All right, let's draw some tarot. All right, so we have the Seven of Cups here. So there is a sense of focusing on something that is the only truth or some sort of priority, where I'm getting the sense it was almost like you might have been distracted in the past, maybe about what you were supposed to focus your attention on. And I feel like in the coming few days, something is going to be revealed to you that is like almost like the core struggle, or like if you think of a character in a book or in a movie, they usually have this core conflict, right? You know, like man versus self, or like, you know, man versus nature, that sort of thing, right? That core conflict. I think that this wound and this process of you confronting it is going to show you what your core conflict is, whether that's just in this period of your life, or whether it's like a wider sort of scope of like your whole life is kind of focused around this one conflict, where maybe you were struggling with certain things and it almost felt like everything was a bit of a struggle to you, right? But you kind of separated it out, or you compartmentalized. So it's like you were maybe feeling like you were struggling with finances, or struggling with romance, or struggling with your public perception or reputation, or just general career status, right? But then I think you're going to understand now, through like seeing this wound that is being healed in you, that all of those things were connected to one central conflict in your life. And once you make efforts to resolve this conflict, or overcome it somehow, that all those other things will start to flow in accordance with this healing. And it's like when you succeed in overcoming this kind of core wound, this like main battle inside yourself, then everything else almost starts to fall away. Like all those things that you thought were deficiencies in yourself were actually just a result of having some core energy unbalanced. All right, we have the King of Pentacles. So there is this sense of being really in control of your creations, of being in control of your body, of having everything you need. It's sort of like, I think that's why this wound is going to be healed for you in the next few days. It's like you are in the state of being prepared, where it's like you have a really strong kind of material comfortability right now. Like you have everything you need. Like you really feel stable. You have all the food you need. You have like a shelter. You're like really taking care of yourself and your body. Like you're just very clean, well dressed, and a clean environment, a really comfortable environment. It doesn't necessarily have to be like super tidy, like pristine or anything. It can still be a little cluttered if that's what you enjoy, but it's kind of like a cozy environment. Like I feel like you're kind of in your nest. So you're surrounded by all this abundance of what makes you comfortable, what makes you feel like yourself. You're really taking care of your body, like you're well rested. And again, like I mentioned, like, you're moisturized, you're thriving and all that. And then I feel like you're also really in control of your creations. It's like you understand that you have created the life that you desire. And that's the world you're living in now. Like all your surroundings, your day-to-day experience, the way your day is structured, just in terms of what you're doing, how much time you're spending on certain things. It's like this is something that you are very much in control of at this point in your life. And that is why this wound is surfacing for you, because it's like you are in a prime condition to be able to face it. And then instead of becoming triggered, like I mentioned, is like overcome it and redirect your perception of it. Because it's like if you were in this state where you were feeling less stable, like you maybe felt like financially insecure, or you just felt like really drained and tired, like you weren't taking care of your body, if this wound surfaced, it would be like, it could almost be like I mentioned, it's like it's reopening the wound, or it's causing more suffering to you, or it's just like being triggering to you, and you wouldn't be able to adopt this like Joker kind of fool energy where you're able to laugh at it. But it's like when you're really comfortable and you are feeling good, that's when you can confront these wounds and be able to really heal from them in a productive way. Because it's almost like if you had it while you were feeling low, it would be like being kicked while you're down. But then when you're in like a more high vibration, it's like you're rising above it. So it's like you're better equipped to deal with this, and that is why this wound is coming to the surface now. All right, so we have the World. So there is this sense of like a kind of freedom and maybe like this expansiveness that you're going through right now. And it's kind of like an overcoming is the sense I'm getting at. Definitely the strong feeling of like rising above and of having some sort of infinite potential, just like a more expansive view of the world. So I feel like this wound is something that definitely held you back in some ways. And it is through this act of overcoming it that new potential is being opened up to you. And it's like you are transcending in some ways that limited mindset that you had before. And it's just freeing you in many ways. And the sense I'm also getting is like there's some sort of wisdom associated with this healing that is like, it's a wisdom that you are now internalizing, where maybe in the past you could have been able to like psychoanalyze this particular wound or conflict, whether this involved other people or whether it was just with yourself or some situation in the world, or just like related to the way you see yourself that was perhaps programmed into you by like parents or caregivers, or could have been an interpersonal conflict where you were dealing with someone else. So you might have been able to sort of look at this from a very analytical or psychological kind of point of view of like breaking down these behaviors and how they're programmed into you in childhood, and like how that affects us in adulthood. But now I feel like through healing this wound, or to heal this wound, you need to go beyond that and like fully understand or internalize the symbolic nature of this wound, where it's like it's nothing that can necessarily be put into words or described in the vernacular of the times. It's almost like this pain that you are dealing with is actually timeless. Like it transcends language. Like the wound that you are facing, even though you can talk about it in contemporary terms, and maybe the way the situation played out is something that could only play out in this day and age, the core of it is something that existed before perhaps even language did. So it's like getting to this deeper level, and that allows you to see yourself in a different way, and it allows you to actually heal this wound in a more meaningful way, where it's almost like if you look on this card with a bandage, it's like two different types. It's like a band-aid and then more like a kind of a gauze roll, right? So like I mentioned, that kind of psychoanalysis or just like surface level is kind of what I'm getting from that way of trying to heal from your wounds in the past. Like it could have related to doing a lot of things like journaling or just talking about things, which like of course is good. And like if a band-aid is all you have, you should certainly put a band-aid on your wound. But at the same time, that's not like going fully deeper and allowing this wound to really heal. It's just kind of covering it up, right? But it's like this more thorough sort of bandage is what you're getting into now. It's like this deeper mode of healing that is very different to what you might have been doing in the past. And that's kind of the sense that I'm getting for how you're going to approach this situation when it arises for you. So maybe let's draw a few cards on how you can know exactly when this situation is happening, because this is going to happen for you in the next few days. All right, the Seven of Pentacles. So it's almost like it's like if you're waiting for it to happen, you might almost miss it, is kind of the sense that I'm getting. It's like you don't want to be too focused on it. Like if you start thinking about, okay, what are my core wounds? Then, you're taking yourself out of, like I mentioned, this kind of King of Pentacles energy where you're feeling really stable and secure. And then you're kind of, it's just changing the outcomes a little bit, right? Like, or it's becoming a little too focused on the outcome. So don't think too much about what this wound will be, or like try to project it into reality, right? Because if you think very like I mentioned, like kind of logically about like what your core wounds are, and then you start thinking about them, those sort of things might start manifesting in your reality, which will be good to deal with, but that's not the sense that I'm getting from the specific situation that we're talking about here. This is a situation that's going to arise in a very unexpected way, where it's almost like a watched pot never boils, is the sense I'm getting. It's like you have to allow yourself to be surprised and for something to come up that you didn't expect, right? Like if you're maybe in this point in your life where you're trying to work through a really specific issue, like you might be thinking right now, like, okay, this is time for me to work through my problems with the opposite sex, or deprogram some views that I have around the class structure, around wealth, right? And you're really focused on that. You're getting kind of like a tunnel vision where you might actually be missing what this most important thing for you to hear is right now, right? Because even though you might be intently focused on trying to heal some specific wound or overcome some specific issue, this is almost like the ego is striving, or like you are again like projecting thought of what you think you need to fix. And that's not actually what you need to hear right now. Like what you need to hear right now is something that can only be conveyed to you when you really clear your mind of all those preconceptions and just exist in the moment. So that's kind of like what I'm getting is like the instruction from the cards is to just keep your eyes peeled and just be really aware and present in the moment. And that's when this wound will be revealed to you. And it is almost kind of like, yeah, again, with this kind of Joker energy, it's kind of like something kind of silly or like lighthearted, where it might almost come up in a kind of joking manner, or like a kind of absurd situation where this wound could be something, again, like I mentioned, you think of it really seriously, maybe really dark, like there could be some feelings of trauma or really deep pain associated with this wound. But when you encounter it in these next few days in this kind of different way of seeing it, it's going to appear to you as something lighthearted. So this could be kind of a comical situation, or it could come up in conversation in kind of more of a joking manner, or you may see something play out where it represents the situation you dealt with, where in the past, when you were in the situation, it would have made you cry, but now when you're witnessing it or upon learning some new information, it's like you laugh at the absurdity of it, or you laugh at some almost like irony is what I'm getting, like dramatic irony. like where the characters in the play are not aware of why the situation is ironic, and then the viewer derives some sort of humor from that. So that's kind of the sense I'm getting, is you're shifting from this perspective where you used to be the character in the play, but now you're shifting to becoming an audience member. And this is something that's going to help you look at the situation differently and shift your perspective entirely. All right, the Chariot. So there is some sense in being able to understand when the situation is arising, of how you can kind of spot it, right? Is that there will be some element of the shadow being triggered in this, right? Like I mentioned, like a wound, right? It's something very triggering. And when we get triggered, that is often when our shadow kind of appears. So this could relate to some sort of harsh judgment you might be making about another person, right? So an example is that you may see someone doing something and you were criticizing them, right? And then this is where the irony comes in, because you might almost realize there's some like hypocritical nature in it, or like the thing you were criticizing in some other person is actually really present within you. And maybe that could kind of show you the irony of a situation where maybe you got kind of wounded because you were too identified with maybe one side of a polarity. And when you see it kind of flipped around, you can understand that maybe neither side of the polarity is right, or maybe both sides are kind of valid, or it's just pointing out to you how maybe a lot of the pain or negative feelings that you were experiencing in relation to the situation or this wound were related to shadow projection rather than the truth of the matter. And also the sense I'm getting is like you might be elevated in some way as well, where it's almost like this is teaching you some sort of lesson that is going to take you to the next level. But at the same time, it's also like humbling you in some ways, because it's showing you how much you didn't know. Or maybe you had already thought that you had kind of like done it all. You understand everything there is. Like you've kind of reached a plateau maybe in your spiritual journey or in your personal development. Like you've put in a lot of work, certainly, which is to be celebrated. And that's why you are being elevated in some ways. But at the same time, the fact that you still have these wounds present and constantly being triggered is acting as a reminder to you that there's always more room for growth and for expansion. And it's like you can continue integrating all these aspects of your shadow or the unconscious, like these alien elements of the collective unconscious, into yourself. And like the vision I'm kind of getting is like the blob, like it's like you're kind of a slime that's just, it's bringing more things into it, and it's expanding and expanding and expanding, where there's not really any sort of plateau of what you can achieve, right? There's nothing to be achieved in this journey of personal growth or of spiritual development. It's more like you are simply continuing to add more perspectives into your conscious awareness. And as you integrate these conscious observations or new perspectives, it's like you are simply gaining a wider view. It's almost like the fog of war is clearing, or like it's like a cone of vision, and your cone of vision is just continually expanding, or you can just see more and more like further ahead. Or it's like a puzzle being put together, except that the puzzle is not constrained by any sort of borders. It's like the puzzle can just continue expanding and expanding and expanding. So every time you go through this experience of having a wound triggered and then healing from it, it is then adding one more piece to the puzzle. But the puzzle itself is never actually complete. It's sort of this quest for wholeness that drives you, but the quest is almost an impossible quest. It's something that can only be accomplished or finished, the summation of which is through death, which is kind of like the end of your journey, or perhaps a new beginning. But it's like there is this feeling of just this total expansion or openness of not actually being able to complete anything, but still being driven by some sort of internal battle. All right, so the Five of Cups. So the situation could relate to some sort of regret that you might have had in the past, or some sort of situation that didn't end very well for you. Or it might be the sort of relationship that you might have had with someone, or like an interpersonal relationship. This could be with family or with a friend or a romantic partner, where there's this feeling of it being kind of a lost cause or some sort of burnt bridge is what I'm getting. Like a feeling of an ending is really present here. But the sense that I'm getting is it's almost like this was not a true ending, or the door is never fully shut. Like what I'm getting is like the energy that you felt towards someone who has wounded you it's almost like that is kind of holding you back from finding that good energy that you felt from that relationship again. So it's like if you have some sort of hang up relating to like a parental figure, right? Like you might have written off one of your parents as like a write off, right? And so then you have this really deep wound relating to like the mother or the father inside you. But it's almost like once you heal that wound in relation to them, that mother or father energy comes back into your life. And this could be whether like it's an internal sort of parent, like your own psyche. Like for example, like your psychic mother inside of you is like the nurturing side of yourself that is going to make your bed and give you a warm bath and cook you a nice bowl of soup, right? Like these are things you do for yourself, but that's that mother energy, right? Or it might present to you in the world of like you might have an older female mentor enter your life and care for you in some way. And it's almost like not necessarily replacement, but it's like it's the same energy that you were seeking through this mother wound, and it will be as rewarding. But it's like you almost have to release or overcome any sort of specific wounds attached to specific people, right? Like similarly, if you went through some sort of falling out in friendship or in love, it's almost like you might have identified too strongly with the ego of that person that you were in conflict or in relationship with, right? But when you kind of focus on releasing that and healing that wound, then it's like the energy of relationship comes back to you, right? Like it's less about any particular person and more about your relationship to the concept of relationship, right? So it's understanding that this is still something that's present within you, right? Even if people have exited your life or if they've wounded you, that core way of relating to them is something that exists within you and will never be lost. And it's something that you need to tap back into in the present moment. And then your physical material reality is going to reorganize itself to be in accordance with this, right? So when you have this feeling of like looking at the spilt milk, like the cups that have fallen over, then you are focused on this broken relationship or errors in relationship. But when you orient yourself back towards those sort of energies that are still present within you, right, that didn't leave your life as soon as this person left, it was like those energies were always within you. Your ability to relate to other people is something that exists within you, not within the other person. And when you focus on that and on your relationship to yourself and like creating this internal harmony, then your material reality is going to show you this healthy, healed relationship that is going to present itself to you. And it has very little to do with any specific person. And you will start to see that it is equally rewarding, no matter which egos are involved. But it's more about the energy that you are putting yourself in. All right, so let's draw one more card on what is going to happen to you in these next few days. All right, the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so this is a very still and stable card, right? We're getting 3 pentacles coming out here, and then also with cups. So there is kind of feeling of like a strong material stability and also relating to some sort of emotional factor. And when the emotional factor is coming out here, it's almost it's like a variety of emotions is kind of what I'm getting, right? Because we have the 7 of Cups here that's showing us like a variety of different things in the cups, and then here we have like this variety of colors of liquid spilling from the cup. So it's like you may be grappling with a variety of emotions in this time period. Like it could almost feel like a barrage is kind of what I'm getting, or you're being asked to select from like a color palette maybe. So it's like the situation that is arriving, right? That this wound could trigger many things in you. It could trigger feelings of anger, sadness, hatred, but it could also trigger feelings of like joy or calm or peace or love. Or heartbreak. And it's almost like you are able to choose from this full spectrum and decide exactly where you want to land when you're confronted with a certain situation. So it's kind of like this feeling of like the jester, right? Like you could laugh it off, or you could cry like a sad mime or sad clown, right? The same situation is going to trigger a very different response in the jester versus in the sad mime who cries at everything, right? So it's like understanding that it's really about your perspective rather than the actual situation itself, right? And with the Knight of Pentacles, it's relating to the strong sense of stability. So it's almost like if you are able to choose that emotion beforehand, no matter what situation you encounter, you're going to have that stability. Like, it's not like you're so volatile that any situation is going to trigger you in such a way that you are not able to control yourself, right? Like, there's no situation that is going to arise that is going to force you to become angry or force you to become sad, or force you to become happy. It's like you can choose to go into it with this Joker-like mentality of like everything is okay. It's not necessarily elation, but it's just like kind of a cheerful happiness, like calm fun, right? You go into it with that stable, really stable energy locked into that emotion, and the whole situation will play out in such a way that you are able to just hold the reins, right? Like, the horse is not out of your control, right? You're just sitting stable on the horse. The horse is not moving, right? And there's also the sense of like something is being presented to you. A new way of being is being presented to you in these next few days, right? The next 48 hours, the next 72 hours, some new way of being is going to be presented to you. And it is about making this choice of selecting this new way of being that on some level you already understood was available to you, but it's almost like you forgot it or lost it, or it was like obscured in some way, like a kind of fog was covering it, and then you're getting a new sort of clarity on how you should approach situations, and a new perspective. This new perspective is becoming more clear to you. So really the advice for the next few days is to prepare yourself to heal some core wound, but not be too focused on exactly what this wound will be or who it will relate to or what aspect of yourself it will relate to. Just the understanding and openness to the fact that a core wound will be healed for you and that it will shift your perspective. And then also with a focus on emotional stability, of selecting the emotion that you wish to dwell in for the next few days, or perhaps a variety of emotions, like understanding that you can choose from this full spectrum and kind of which color you would like it to be. Like if you want to go into like a more melancholy state, you color the world blue. If you want to get really fired up and use that anger to turn into a passion that will motivate you, right, then paint the world red. And maybe if you just want to chill and be in your kind of Joker silly era, everything is going to be yellow and glowing with sunlight for you. So it is really your choice, but prepare yourself to have your perspective shifted. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this reading. I hope it resonated with you. If you're interested in commissioning a custom personalized reading, please shoot me an email. That'll be in the video description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.